Thank you very much for having me and for coming out tonight. The Center for Fiction is a wonderful resource, and I'm delighted to be here. There's a great vibe here, and it's definitely an institution that that we need in this day and age more than ever. So I'm delighted to know about it, and looking forward to working with Noreen and all the group here. So thank you very much for having me. Let's see, this book, Billy Lynn, it came out of the very profound, as profound as I can be, I suppose, profound bewilderment and despair that I was feeling 2004, 2005, and which probably peaked right after the 2004 elections. And I had to come to the conclusion that I didn't understand my country. This place where I was born and grew up, I didn't have a clue. And a lot of that had to do with the political situation, in the sense that the military had been hijacked, the banking system had been hijacked, the whole notion of capitalism, don't get me started. But anyway, that year, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys play one of the 2 Thanksgiving games that the NFL broadcasts every Thanksgiving Day. And so it was Thanksgiving at our house, and we had the game on just as background. We had a bunch of people over, and the halftime show came on. And for some reason, I started paying attention to it. And it was a completely surreal, utterly weird, over-the-top mashup of probably the worst of American culture. You know, triumphalism, militarism, pop culture, softcore porn. It was just all mashed up into one big stew. And so I was sitting there watching, and I thought, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And there was a heavy military component. There was the United States Army drill team there, you know, the guys who do close order drill and make the rifles do all the amazing things, and ROTCs, and 5 or 6 marching bands. But just for a moment, the camera zoomed in on a very small group of 5 or 6 American soldiers, and they were in desert camos, and they were tan and they were lean, and so you looked at them and you thought, they've been over there and they've just come back, and they were laughing and they were kind of stumbling around, and I thought, well, they're drunk. Everybody else is in strict march step, and these guys, like, they are just kind of like, laughing, and I thought, well, of course they're laughing. It's completely absurd to them. And that kind of crystallized all the things I've been feeling and trying to get my head around for the past few years. What would it do to your head to have been over there in that ultimate reality, facing life and death every day, and then brought back to the United States and dropped into this very artificial situation? And so I thought, well, maybe there's a story there. And so I just carried that around in my head for a few years while I was working on, a failed novel, and started writing this in 2009. And anyway, so I'm going to read from the halftime sequence itself, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of long, but just to set the scene, there are 8 Bravos. These are 8 American soldiers who've been in Iraq. Fox News caught them in the midst of an engagement, and they were doing their job. They were doing something heroic, and the footage went viral. The Bush administration seized on this as a golden opportunity to promote the war. So they brought the 8 surviving Bravos back for 2 weeks, and they've done this PR tour all around the United States. The Dallas Cowboys game is the last event, and they are supposed to be guests of honor at the halftime show. And as soon as they're done with this game, they're going back to Fort Hood, and then they ship out for Iraq in 2 days, straight back to combat. So the main character is the title character, Billy Lynn. He's a 19-year-old soldier from a small town in Texas, and so the book is presented through his point of view. And let's see, Beyonce and Destiny's Child are they're the real talent at halftime. So, and they'll show up. So I'm just going to drop you in, and at certain points, well, let me say this. The challenge in writing this scene was, what did it mean? I mean, what was going on here? Was there less than meets the eye, about the same as meets the eye, or more than meets the eye? And I felt like there was something there. There must have been, because I latched onto it. I mean, I have enough faith at this point in my own sense of things for it to have stuck with me all these years. And so in the course of writing this scene, I mean, first draft, I'm trying to figure out, what is it? I mean, is it just what it looks like it is, just stupid and absurd and you know, completely over the top? Or is there something else going on? And so my thought process pretty much tracks Billy's as he's trying to figure it out. So I'm just going to drop you right into the middle of it. Okay, it's a cold, sleety Thanksgiving afternoon. 34 degrees, so they were informed by an unseen voice in the tunnel. In stepping onto the field, they were met by a stinging crystalline mist, swarms of frozen microdroplets like polar gnats. Ranks of young flag girls stood bravely in the cold, pinch-faced, pale, their bare legs pebbled and chapped, heads shiny with condensed mist. Lambs to the slaughter, Billy thought, as if they were truly forming up for battle. And farther on stood the high school bands in silent ranks, all those rows and rows of pink-cheeked baby faces so still and focused beneath their feathered caps, so seriously fixed on what they were about. Billy envied these kids the sincerity of their youth, their orderly student lives of classes, pep rallies, sleeping late on Saturdays. They looked so sharp. He felt tremendously tender toward them. They made him nostalgic. They made him feel so damn old. The Prairie View drum line sets up at midfield, led by a towering black warlock of a drum major in high church drum major rig, capes, spats, golden braids, and epaulettes, a funnel cloud of a shako strapped to his head. The other four bravos are somewhere to the left, and between their two contingents stands the United States Army drill team out of Fort Myer, Maryland, 20 drill grunts in flawless dress blues who can make their fixed bayonet Springfields flip, twirl, spin, do cartwheels around the waist, loop the loop around the shoulders, sail through the air in a daring four-man diamond toss, and probably moonwalk if so ordered. A corps of Rotsies is positioned behind this front rank of bravos and drill grunts, the Rots stomping and huffing like water buffalo. Yeah, the warlock barks, and the drums erupt in a driving rataplan, tat-a-tat-a, tat-a-tat-a, drip-drip, boo-boo-boo, a stirring take on the ructions of the smitten human heart. Then trumpets. Brasses jailbreak and bust out, the horns swinging in martial counterpoint as three slender women slip in from the side and take position front and center of the drill grunts. It is them. Billy floats a little outside of himself. The women's backs are to the soldiers, but even or maybe especially from behind, there is no question that Destiny's Child has arrived. The current undisputed world champs of mass market pop, colored girl division. Beyonce takes the starring middle spot while Michelle and Kelly decant themselves on the flanks. They wear tight low-rise pants, stiletto heels, flirty midriff tops with long lacy sleeves, and there's an awesome physical discipline in their stance. Hips cocked, coaxial to trunk and legs, backs sturdy and supple as flexed bows. Thus posed, they freeze. The music snaps to a halt. Cameramen are crab walking around the singers. This is live TV happening as the girls raise the microphones to their lips. And soft as bed covers being turned down for the night, they croon in lush a cappella. Bending toward a reprise of the national anthem. It could tip that way with the slightest nudge, but their voices flower into something softer, sweeter, a rain of sugared rose petals, batting the ears. Can you take me there tonight? On the far sideline, a stage has been concocted, a spangly three-tiered affair with a jigsaw backdrop of multicolored panels that seems to strive for a modernist stained glass look. A dance troupe is freeze-framed on the various tiers. Guys in shimmery white sweatsuits and jumbo bling, women in tight slacks or cutoffs and artfully mangled Cowboys jerseys, ripped, cropped, sleeveless, no two alike. To Billy's right, Lotus seems to be gagging on his snot. Destiny's Child reprises the Take Me There refrain. Then the drums sound off and that's their cue. The entire formation steps out. The cameramen start backpedaling, going on faith. Up ahead, the drum line peels left and right, clearing a route to the stage. Later, watching the performance on YouTube, Billy will start to piece together the enormous scale of it. At least 5 marching bands cycling on and off the field. The frantic sex show choreography happening on stage. Flag girls and drill squads from one end zone to the other. Razzies, Bravos, drill grunts, Destiny's Child. The proverbial cast of thousands. Someone will describe it as a production worthy of a Broadway musical. And though Billy has never set foot in New York, much less seen a musical of any kind, that will sound about right. But while it's happening, he's just trying to hang on. A baton twirler skips by in a blur of skin and spinning chrome. High school drill teams in one-piece leotards are doing a shoot-shoot sort of booty bump routine. They are training to be strippers, apparently. Drum lines wheel alongside the soldier column. Flying squads of flag girls zigzag across the route, and Destiny's Child powers through it all with a back-leaning, hip-heavy sachet strut that doesn't look quite possible from where Billy is, as if some mystical combination of diva mojo and stairmaster ties keeps them upright when mere mortals would fall flat on their ass. Up ahead, troops of dancers flank the stage. Guys in floppy shirts and pants, caps to the back. Girls in silver sports bras and royal blue tights. Already there's so much for the mind to absorb, and then the disco lights get going. Rows of blue and white strobes between the stage tiers. More strobes trimming the steel pipe frame, and everything flashing all at once. Electro-visual spaz pulse and epileptic overload, retinal scarring, frontal lobes blown to caterpillar fuzz. This is your brain on meth! Lotus is flinching, his poor head keeps swagging to the side. Then the explosions start and they all flinch. Boom, boom, boom. Loom rounds are shooting off from somewhere backstage, smokers that explode with the arid crackle of cluster bombs scattering over a wheat field. A howl commences deep in Lotus's throat. It's cool, Billy murmurs. It's cool, it's just fireworks. Lotus starts laughing, gasping for breath. On Billy's other side, Crack is looking clammy and grim. If there was ever a primetime trigger for PTSD, you couldn't do much better than this. But lucky for Norm, he's the Cowboys owner. The crowd, America, the 40 million plus TV viewing audience. Bravos can deal, oh yes. Pupils dilated, pulse and blood pressure through the roof. Limbs trembling with stress reflex cortisol rush. But it's cool, it's good, their shit's down tight. No Vietnam vet crack-ups for Bravo squad. You can march these boys straight into sound and light show hell and Bravos can deal. But damn, isn't it rude to put them through it? The formation moves on 8-to-5 step with the beat. Booty boom, booty boom, booty boom, boom, boom. Snare drums make a fella damn proud to be a soldier. It's not a joke, Billy realizes. They spent too much money and went to too much effort for halftime to be intentionally ridiculous. Which isn't to say that big expensive things can't be done. The Titanic was dumb. Enron was dumb. Hitler invading Russia, dumb. Boom diddy, boom booda get boom. So go the Prairie View drums, thunder's wind chimes. Lotus knocks into Billy, steadies. Sorry, Billy. At the north hash mark, all soldiers will about face and march south while Destiny's Child proceeds to the stage. Billy is watching for his mark and trying not to hyperventilate. Boom diddy, diddy diddy boom. Disco strobes, hump dancing, loom rounds and flares, marching bands marking time in regal high step. And here is Billy soldiering through the vast mindfuck of it, coiled into himself and determined to deal. All right, that was the easy part. I mean, just trying to get it on paper. I mean, it was hard, and in some ways it took everything I had, but the problems were basically technical. I mean, how to pace it correctly, how to put in the right amount of details, the correct details, how to throw a visual and oral, image onto the reader's imagination. So, and trying to compress it and concentrate it, and not let things bog down. Do justice to the experience, but keep it moving. So, this was the easy part, just getting it on the page. Now, comes the part where, in the writing of it, I was Okay, now you have to figure out what's going on. What is this about? Just assume you're going to die. So they were instructed the week before deploying to Iraq. Affirmative, roger that. Sir, yes, sir. Carnage awaits us. We are the ones who will not be saved. The poor, sad, doomed, honorably fucked front line who will fight them over there so as not to fight them here. A harsh thing for any young man to hear, but this is part of every youth's education in the world. Learning the risks are never fully revealed until you commit. Destiny's Child is really laying into the strut. They could be wading through a storm surge up to their waist. God damn, Billy thinks, watching them sling it. God damn. So how is he supposed to redeploy with such sights in his head? Within days, no, hours, Bravo is back in the ship. And he's been waiting for them to say it again. He dreads it, but the harsh words need to be said. You're going to die. Just get that part of it over with, please. But no, no one will do it. They get Beyonce in her mouth-watering ass instead. Maybe it's not supposed to make sense. Or maybe not for you, Billy thinks, because you are a dumb shit. Right? That's me talking about me. Okay? I haven't figured it out. And again, you know, in the way the scene plays out, I just followed my own, you know, struggle, effort to, you know, is there more here than meets the eye in this ceremony going on? So, I don't, you know, is it just senseless sensation? Anyway, onward. Maybe it's supposed not to make. Maybe it's not supposed to make sense, or maybe not for you, Billy reasons, because you are a dumb shit. Then they turn. He's missed the hash mark by half a beat. The drill grunt's razor sharp on the mark, while Bravo flops around like loose shoelaces. Change step. March. Day woofs sotto voce. As team leader, he's responsible for getting them through halftime with some semblance of their dignity intact. And now he counts time with the drill grunts, trying to shoehorn the Bravos into lockstep. Left, left. The mantra settles Billy's mind and his feet start to follow, though it would help if he had a weapon in his hands. Just ahead are the Rotsies, a herd of shambling, big-assed kids, many of them no doubt older than Billy, and yet they look so young from the back, their soft, fleshy, baby-fat necks, practically screaming for the sacrificial axe to come down. Left face, Day softly woofs. They've reached the sideline. Bravo steps off 7 strides, left face again, halt. For the moment, their job is to stand next to the drill grunts and look pretty. High school girls in fringed leotards go skipping past, waving long, twirly streamers from 6-foot poles. The Prairie View drumline has reconvened at midfield, glide stepping to the beat of crunchy snare rolls. And everybody except Bravo is moving, it seems. The field has become a huge jam-up of hip-hop choreographics and rigid blocks of synchronized marching band mass. The stage apparatus belches gouts of flame and fireworks as Destiny's Child ascends with their prancing diva strut. The stage dancers go right on humping like the nastiest video on MTV as Beyonce and her girls bring the microphones to their lips. You say you're gonna take me there? They sing in kittenish, pouty trills. Say you know what I need. Show devotion to the notion of our mutual creed. Beyonce slinks one hand down the inside of her thigh, then drags it toward her snatch, not quite cupping herself at the critical point. This is the PG-rated crotch grab, suitable for family viewing. The streamer girls go skipping by, their pale, skinny legs like pogo sticks. Those strobes are doing a number on Billy's head. He narrows his eyes to slits and everything blurs. It is a rat bite fever dream of soldiers, marching bands, blizzards of bodies bumping and grinding, woofs of fireworks, multiple drum lines cranking go team go. Destiny's Child, drill grunts, toy soldiers and sexy time all mashed together into one big inspirational stew. How many dozens of times has Bravo watched Crack's Conan DVDs? Many dozens. They know every line by heart. And out of all the streamings and veerings of his overamped brain, Billy flashes on the palace orgy scene. James Earl Jones is the Snake King sitting on his throne while his stoned minions sprawl about the floor, slurping and licking and humping in glassy-eyed bliss. It creeps him, the overlay of that sludgy sex scene and what he sees before him now. The complete and utter weirdness of the halftime show and the fact that everybody seems okay with it. The stands are packed, the fans are on their feet and everyone is cheering. Everything makes them happy today. Fine, be happy is Billy's attitude. They can cheer and scream and holler all they want, but it's nothing. Their show, just fluff, filler. It's got nothing to do with Billy or going back to the war. And so I'd reached that point where I thought, it really doesn't mean anything. It is just fluff, filler. But I kept flashing on this scene from Conan. And when I was in law school, I lived with a bunch of medical students. And they were obsessed with Conan. And so they had, these Conan movies playing over and over and over. This is at Duke, by the way, one of the hardest medical schools to get into. Anyway, while I was writing the scene, the James Earl Jones on his throne as the Snake King, kept flashing in my head. And I've been doing this long enough that I've learned, well, sometimes it's just, static electricity in your head, but sometimes it's really information. And so maybe you should pay attention to it. Even though it did creep me out. It's an ugly scene, it's a nasty scene. But my head kept going back to it, so maybe that was a clue. In the stands behind the stage, a huge American flag appears, a card stunt. Each one of a mass of 20,000 fans comprising a pixel in this antique special effect. The cards spin, and now the flag is presented as if rippling in the wind. On second look, it's more like the thing's been badly pressed, the pattern gashed through with wrinkles and kinks. For several moments, Billy's eyes play tricks with it, tweaking the perspective back and forth. Then his inner ear jolts, and the ground seems to tilt, a lurch that sets him down in a different place. It occurs to him that maybe he's wrong. Maybe the halftime show is as real as anything. What if some power or potent agency lives in it? Not a show, but a means to something, something conferred or invoked, a ceremony, something religious, so long as religious extends to such cold-blooded concepts as mayhem, chance, nature out of control. He feels the pull of a superseding reality that trumps even the experiential truths of a grunt on the ground, the blood on your hands, the burn in your lungs, the stink of your unwashed feet. Merely thinking about it sets off a pounding in his skull, not his headache, but a heavier sonar throb deep in the lower brainstem. And very clearly the thought comes to him, that's where it lives. The God in your head, all the gods. Is that what's happening here? He's too self-conscious and church-averse to accept a completely straight notion of God. So how about this? Chemicals, hormones, needs, and drives. Whatever is in us that's so supreme and terrifying that we have to call it divine. Billy is cold where the warmest part of him should be, as if meaning naturally registers first in the most delicate instrument he has, his balls. He's scared. He knows this is a bad place to be. They love to talk up God and country, but it's the devil they propose. All those busy little biochemical devils of sex and death and war that simmer at the base of the skull, punch up the heat a few degrees and they rise to a boil, spill over the sides. Do they even know? He wonders. Maybe they don't know what they know, given that what he sees before him is so random, so perfect, pouring light out of its mind of martial dope. Short of blood sacrifice or actual sex on the field, you couldn't devise a better spectacle for turning up the heat. Well, this is where I came out. This is what I concluded in the course of writing the scene, that, well, it's a hypothesis, that maybe there is something going on. It's not just fluff or filler, maybe there's some agency at work here. It's kind of an outrageous hypothesis. It's just a stupid halftime show. But, if you think about it, if a Martian came down to Earth, or maybe even better, say a no-contact tribe from the Amazon, and, a tribesman from one of those, societies, and you put this person in the stands and say, look at this, they would say, surely they must be worshiping their gods. It can't just be for nothing. And also going on here is, I've done a lot of trips to Haiti, and I've seen, you know, I don't know if you could say dozens and dozens, but certainly dozens of voodoo ceremonies. And those are rituals where an agency is called upon, and something does seem to be conferred or invoked, at least to believers. And I'm not sure I would have seen the halftime show in this kind of light if I hadn't done all those trips to Haiti and gone to all those voodoo ceremonies. It's just a hypothesis. I mean, I don't know, we can never know, but it's a question to live with. Right? Bravos are taken behind the stage. They're going to appear on stage with Destiny's Child. Portable sets of metal stairs lead up to the highest stage level, and the Bravos are placed at the tops of these stairways, one Bravo per. A narrow catwalk is all that separates them from the stage backdrop, and Billy is standing there, a step below catwalk level, when a magnificent female creature bombs through the backdrop. It is a louvered sort of opening she steps around as several handlers swarm in. One takes her microphone, another offers Evian, a third presents some sort of small furry garment that the woman proceeds to pull over her head. Beyonce. If Billy chooses, he could reach out and touch her thigh. Her hair springs free of the pullover like a solar flare, and from Billy's vantage point a foot below the catwalk, she towers with a Rocky Mountain majesty. Up close, her skin is the honeyed brown of apple butter, limned with a film of perspiration that holds the light. Michelle and Kelly have their own handlers farther down the catwalk. No one speaks. They are all business, these show people, as quiet and lethal as sniper teams. Beyonce shoots her arms through the sleeves of the jacket, a cropped off-shoulder sateen number with a fur-trimmed collar, and as she arranges herself inside the garment, her eyes meet Billy's. "Excuse me," he wants to say. "Go on, go on." She's so focused and fierce in the moment that he's sorry to impinge even to this small extent. Carrying the show in front of 40 million people makes her one of the top human beings on the planet. And what strength of nerve that must take, what freakish concentrations of soul and energy. She's not even winded, a yogic mastery of the mind-body balance. She inhabits some far distant astral plane, and yet her eyes do something when they meet his. For an instant he seems to register there. In that split second, Billy searches for something in her look. Not mercy, exactly. Nothing so grand as compassion. Maybe just a bare acknowledgement of their shared humanity. But she's already turning. She takes the mic and one of the handlers is saying "kick butt" as she steps through the slot and disappears.